Impossible is nothing. Impossible wasn't just an espionage movie, it was a chaotic collision of ambition, betrayal, and on-set carnage. Behind every tuxedoed handshake and whispered briefcase handoff, there were hidden tensions, fractured budgets, dangerous stunts, and a studio on the verge of collapse. What audiences didn't know is how much of the film was born in crisis. Here are 20 weird facts about Impossible, from production nightmares to cultural fallout. And stick around for the bonus fact that will blow your mind. Hit subscribe and brace yourself. Fact number 20. On the first day of shooting, the lead actor arrived 4 hours late. It wasn't a simple delay. It was a warning sign. The call sheets had already been redrafted 3 times overnight, because the studio rep insisted on last-minute changes that conflicted with the stunt schedule. Meanwhile, the stunt crew had begun rigging pyrotechnics without the final scene layout approval. The director snapped. The crew had to stop work while the location manager tracked down the missing actor, who was in fact negotiating a new deal for his cut of overseas profits. Shooting fell a full day behind, and the budget cratered. The opening scene now carries the weight of that collapse. Fact number 19. A stunt gone wrong nearly killed the second lead. During the climax, there is a practical effects explosion meant to send a safe flying off a rooftop. It wasn't just barge in for effect. It was dangerously miscalibrated. The safe flew farther than planned, landed on a load-bearing beam, which cracked. The stuntman inside smashed his shoulder, and the crew discovered that the permits for the blast zone were never properly filed. The insurance broker pulled the policy temporarily, and the production limped on under stop-work orders. The final take looks calm. What audiences didn't see is how close it came to turning into a real disaster. Fact number 18. The original composer was replaced with 2 weeks to wrap. The film was scoring its final reel when the producer rejected the original orchestrations as too jazzy for a spy thriller. It wasn't just a musical change, it was panic. A new composer was brought in, given just 9 days of studio time, and forced to reuse several cues from an abandoned horror film project. The music now carries the film's tension, but beneath the polished veneer lies a scrambled score patched together at the 11th hour. Every dramatic beat you feel owes a debt to that last-minute overhaul. Fact number 17. A key set was built on borrowed land and nearly demolished mid-shoot. The production erected a large Venetian palace facade next to a canal, supposedly on studio-owned property. Weeks into filming, the real landowner served eviction notices citing unpaid fees. It wasn't mere paperwork. The set had to be dismantled at midnight during a weekend filming break. The crew packed up gear while extras waited in full costume. When shooting resumed, the design team had to rebuild a portion of the facade on a soundstage, losing continuity and adding unplanned cost. The seamless screen illusion hides these frantic rebuilds. Fact number 16. Lead and supporting actor clashed so badly, the director threatened to walk off. The protagonists had to film a long one-take scene in a cramped corridor. Tensions over screen time and billing erupted when the supporting actor insisted on rewriting his lines. The director intervened, calling a shutdown meeting. He told both to settle, or he walked. It wasn't just ego. It was an actual threat. The atmosphere on set turned icy, and the cameraman later described the shoot as the worst vibe I ever rode through. Yet the final scene appears effortless, a testament to illusion over reality. Fact number 15. The studio demanded additional scenes be inserted for international markets just days before release. At the 11th hour, foreign distributors threatened to drop the film unless it included 2 extra action sequences which weren't in the original script. The studio flew a mini crew to add those shots overseas using stand-ins and scrap footage. It wasn't just padding, it was creative desperation to salvage foreign box office. The color grading of those inserts doesn't match. Sharp-eyed fans might spot the jarring cut, but the majority won't, and the film maintains its flow despite the behind-the-scenes scramble. Fact number 14. One of the female protagonists was legally underaged for one of the stunts. She was cast at 17, and during the production, she had to go through a minor waiver process for a rope climbing stunt. The paperwork was processed, but the stunt coordinator later admitted he overlooked a local labor law clause. The schedule assumed adult status, but at one meeting, a legal advisor warned that filming could stop if inspected. The scene went ahead anyway and made the final cut. The actress later reflected that she didn't feel safe, and the screen gloss hides the hidden risk. Fact number 13. A blackout on location almost ruined a pivotal night shoot. The crew was filming in an old cathedral district when the city power grid failed. The night shoot went dark and ambient light vanished. The director improvised by using handheld torches and portable generators. It wasn't just an inconvenience. The crew had to reschedule dozens of extras and props with less than 12 hours' notice. They managed to salvage the shot, and the successful take made it into the film. But the behind-scenes log shows a chaotic scramble that would make any production manager shudder. Fact number 12. The lead actor insisted on doing his own driving stunts, and it nearly ended his career. He trained for 2 weeks on a closed course for the chase sequence. The plan called for a scripted roll of the vehicle upon impact. Mid-take, the stunt coordinator miscalculated a wheel angle, the car flipped too fast, and the actor hit his head on the roll bar. He walked away bruised, but the scene remained in the film. It wasn't just bravado. It was reckless protocol. Afterwards, the insurance rates skyrocketed, and the production had only days to rearrange the insurance rider. Success owes a debt to narrow margins. Fact number 11. Mid-roll engagement moment. If you're enjoying these hidden tales from Impossible, 1966, go ahead and like and subscribe because there are even crazier production secrets ahead. You'll want to stay for fact number 1 and the bonus fact. It's wild. Here at Fact 11, things get even more bizarre behind the camera. Fact number 10. The ghost-written scene wasn't a rumor, it was a wound in the film's timeline. The writer who conceived Impossible 1966 was removed halfway through production after clashing with the producer over political subtext. But before leaving, he slipped a secret rewrite into the final draft pages, a 2-page sequence about arms trafficking and espionage in neutral territory. It was filmed quietly at dawn with a skeleton crew, then erased when the studio ordered all politics stripped out. Yet traces of it survived: props, mismatched characters glancing toward invisible foes, an unexplained radio broadcast. Editors tried to stitch the hole shut, but you can still sense it like a phantom limb. It wasn't sabotage. It was rebellion preserved in celluloid. Every cutaway shot in the second act bears the fingerprints of that vanished scene. Fact number 9. That sleek black SUV tearing through the chase wasn't a prop. It was a real government prototype accidentally rented from a logistics contractor who serviced a defense agency. The production thought it was a surplus vehicle. It wasn't. Halfway through filming, an alert went out after witnesses reported unauthorized use of classified hardware. The local police and intelligence office nearly seized the car mid-shoot. The studio panicked, rewrote the shooting permit overnight, and disguised the vehicle with magnetic decals and fake license plates. What seems like standard spy imagery on screen was a brush with national security protocol. Afterward, the car was quietly returned, repainted, and never mentioned in press notes. The realism everyone praised came from genuine fear on the faces of the crew who knew they were one phone call away from arrest. Fact number 8. The ballroom sequence shimmered on screen, but it was built on hunger and chaos. Extras packed into the marble hall for what was meant to be a 6-hour shoot. 14 hours later, they were still waiting, sweating under arc lights while the catering van stalled miles away. People fainted, tempers flared, and the production assistant barricaded himself in a wardrobe to avoid the mob. When the cameras finally rolled, half the extras had stormed out, so replacements were pulled from nearby cafes, still wearing aprons and waiter uniforms. That's why a few background figures look suspiciously modern. The illusion of elegance hid a minor riot. It wasn't rebellion, it was exhaustion. Dressed in tuxedos. When the director yelled cut, no one applauded. They just walked out in silence. Fact number 7. The infamous safe wasn't a prop, it was a monster. Weighing nearly 2 tons, it was constructed from real metal panels because the director demanded authenticity for close-ups. During rehearsals, the floor of Stage B began to creak. Mid-take, the safe collapsed through a false beam, plunging halfway into the storage pit below. Sparks flew, cables snapped, and one grip narrowly avoided being crushed. The stunt cameras kept rolling. The director refused to call cut. Later, the shot was slowed and used as part of the final explosion sequence. What the audience sees as controlled chaos was real danger captured by accident. Insurance assessors arrived within hours, baffled by the missing paperwork. The floor was rebuilt overnight, but the gouges remained hidden under a fresh layer of paint, a literal scar beneath the glamour. Fact number 6. The villain's motive changed overnight because of one panicked test screening. Early audiences found the espionage plot too ambiguous. The studio feared confusion would tank ticket sales, so they hired an uncredited writer to reshape the final act. Scenes were rewritten between takes. Dialogue was dubbed later in post to alter the villain's ideology from political betrayal to personal revenge. Continuity collapsed, but marketing loved the clarity. Cast members returned weeks later to film pickup shots under fake titles. What ended up on screen is a hybrid of 2 stories stitched together with frantic precision. It wasn't vision, it was survival. Yet that desperate rewrite created the film's haunting ambiguity, the reason fans still argue over the villain's true intent decades later. Sometimes, chaos breeds myth. Fact number 5. The cinematographer was shooting through fevered delirium. He contracted severe influenza during exterior filming, but refused to hand over his camera. Eyes watering, hands trembling, he adjusted lights through muscle memory. Exposure readings wavered, colors slipped between gold and blue. The following day, his assistant took over and unknowingly used a different lens series, causing a subtle distortion in depth. Instead of reshooting, the director blended both versions. The result is the dreamlike shimmer of the third act, a fever literally filmed by a man burning with illness. Behind every graceful dolly move lies the sound of a cameraman coughing between takes. It wasn't creative experimentation, it was endurance carved into film grain. When he finally recovered, he described those days as seeing the world melt and still hitting focus. Fact number 4. Editing impossible became an act of mutiny. The official editor clashed with the producer over pacing. She wanted suspense, he wanted speed. 3 days before deadline, she was fired. The director barricaded himself in the cutting room with reels piled like sandbags. Using borrowed equipment and razor blades, he recut the film overnight into a version that defied studio orders. When executives screened it, they couldn't deny its power. His rough cut became final release. It wasn't rebellion for art's sake, it was instinct under siege. You can still feel the roughness, abrupt fades, abrupt silences, sudden musical drops. Those imperfections pulse like heartbeat glitches. Without that last-minute stand, the film would have been another sterile spy clone. Instead, it became legend, raw, uneven, alive. Fact number 3. During the explosive finale, the boundary between fiction and danger blurred. The pyrotechnic crew set up real fireworks across a city street to simulate a burning embassy. Permits were partial. Traffic remained open in adjacent lanes. When the charges fired, sparks scattered onto a passing car, cracking the windshield. The driver slammed brakes, chaos erupted, and cameras kept rolling. Authorities rushed in, unaware it was staged. The footage was confiscated for investigation and later returned under hush agreement. What plays as cinematic realism was a genuine emergency captured by multiple angles. It wasn't controlled energy, it was reckless art. The smoke you see in that sequence isn't studio fog, it's the residue of one night when movie magic flirted with catastrophe. Fact number 2. Money bled faster than film through the camera gate. The original budget promised restraint, but ambition devoured discipline. Every new stunt demanded new insurance, every delay doubled wages. By month 3, the film had spent nearly half its total allocation without a single complete act edited. Studio accountants warned production to halt. Instead, they added locations to justify expenditure. The spiral deepened until executives re-mortgaged distribution rights just to finish principal photography. When the dust settled, Impossible stood 47% over budget. It wasn't extravagance, it was addiction to grandeur. Yet the result shimmered with authenticity because everything was real. Real sets, real weather, real risk. The numbers sank, but the myth soared. Failure on paper became triumph in projection booths. Fact number 1. Power shifted behind the scenes in ways the public never imagined. The film's charismatic lead quietly loaned personal funds to keep production afloat when financiers withdrew. Hidden within the contract was a clause granting him veto power over final cut. When the studio ignored his preferred ending, he attended the premiere, smiled for photographers, then walked out before credits rolled. For decades, the rumor persisted that 2 endings existed, one his, one theirs. The truth lies buried in locked archives labeled Version A. That lost reel remains unseen. It wasn't ego, it was ownership wrestled from corporate control. His silent rebellion reshaped Hollywood negotiations thereafter. The actor proved a single star could bend a studio to his will, leaving behind a legacy of artistry entangled with power. Bonus fact: the film's final scene contains a hidden tribute to a real-life spy network. The shattered mirror shards in the villain's hideout were intentionally patterned after the emblem of the actual Cold War-era espionage ring the director researched. Most audiences assume the shards are mere aesthetic chaos, but the layout spells the Agent Net's code name in Morse-like pattern. That tiny detail remained from the original draft and survived multiple rewrites. It wasn't placeholder art. It was covert homage. In the end, Impossible, 1966, lives on not just as sleek spy entertainment, but as a monument to what happens when big ambition meets tiny margins and all the chaos beneath the glitz. The next time you watch the film, look past the glamour and see the fractures in the performance, the edits, the sets themselves. They're part of the story. If you found these secrets as wild as they are illuminating, then go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe for more behind-the-scenes deep dives, and never settle for what you see on screen. As for this film, remember, everything may seem effortless, but nothing was simple.